Today, we all associate Italian cars with exotic styling, high price tags, and high-performance V12 engines, but as the automotive world moves towards electrification, iconic brands like Ferrari and Lamborghini are being forced to change that last part. This shift has left an opening for many EV startups, and now Aehra is attempting to create the first all-electric Italian luxury car company. Hey, I'm Creech, and this is Creech & Cars. Today, I'm going to be going over everything you need to know about Italian EV startup Aehra. This is Startup Showcase, where I take a look at new startup car companies and their models. In this video, I'll take a look at the brief history of Aehra and its technology, and then I'll go over the design and performance specs for the brand's two models. But first, a quick note on pronunciation. As far as I've gathered, the correct pronunciation is Aehra. This name is derived from the Latin word for era, insinuating that we are entering a new era for Italian cars. Aehra was founded in early 2022 in Milan, Italy by Hazim Nada and Sandro Andreotti. The pair had worked together in the past by founding Aerogravity, which is the largest wind tunnel in Europe. For direct experience in the automotive industry, they brought in Filippo Perini, who was previously a designer at Lamborghini and Italdesign, and he serves as the company's chief of design currently. As the chief engineer, the founders chose Franco Chiavatti, who had been an engineer at Lotus and Ferrari in the past. The company described itself as a new global ultra-premium electric automotive brand upon launch. And Hazim Nada said Aehra isn't just another electric luxury car brand, but instead an innovative technology company that will use the transition to electric power to take car design and construction to its limits to deliver an entirely new customer experience that focuses on more than instant torque and wild performance claims. In September of 2022, Aehra unveiled its first concept car, simply called the SUV. While this was only a concept, designer Filippo Perini said that the brand does not believe in creating unrepresentative concept cars, hinting that the production version would be pretty much the same. And just now in June of 2023, the brand unveiled the SEDAN as its second model. So first, let's go into some more detail on the SUV. Company executives have said that the car was designed from a blank piece of paper and is the result of not placing any limitations on design. Personally, I don't hate it, but it's also definitely not my favorite SUV design ever. However, it does seem that the general consensus is that people think the designs look really good, so let me know what you think about it in the comments. Overall, as you can see, it's very rounded and smooth. Lowering drag was a focus of the car, and the design team has accomplished a coefficient of drag of just 0.21, meaning that the only production car that has a lower coefficient of drag would be the Mercedes EQS, which has a coefficient of 0.20. While the SUV is mostly very smooth, the front end is more angular and aggressive than the rest of the vehicle. The lower half features a large grille to help cool down the battery pack, and there are side air curtains and a set of lower LED running lights. Then you'll notice there is a front wing to help guide the airflow as well. The headlights are very small, and there's another smaller set of running lights right above those. The Aehra script is on the nose as well, and then we move up to the large windshield and digital side mirrors. The side windows are pretty small, which gives the SUV a more coupe-like roofline and makes the vehicle look much smaller than it actually is. The side of the SUV doesn't really have any body lines like what we've been seeing in car design for the past 10 to 15 years, and instead it's much more wavy looking. The charge port can also be seen on the driver's side, and it's fairly unremarkable. There are no visible door handles, and the doors actually have a very neat and interesting way of opening. These hinges are called elytra hinges, and they open in the same way that a beetle's wings do, which is where the term elytra comes from. Moving on to the rear end, it echoes the front with the two sets of lights. It's unclear which lights will be the brakes, tail lights, or turn signals, but I think the lights do look good on the front and back. And on the back, the upper tail lights create a reflection off of the body, and it almost creates this appearance of a U shape, especially at some angles and certain lighting conditions. It really looks almost more like the Aston Martin U lights, but it is just sort of one line. The rear windshield is very flat, and then the design finishes off with a more aggressive bumper. Now taking a look at the sedan's design, it has the same general shape as the SUV, but it's visibly lower despite the SUV's already low roofline. The front end is much different, and that's really what sets the two models apart. There is no front wing for the sedan, and the two sets of LED lights are much closer in size to each other. The side air curtains have a nice design to them, and there is the same large windshield and digital mirrors. The side profile is very similar, but side by side you can see that the SUV is definitely higher and has a larger presence than the sedan. The doors also open a little differently, and these ones are called double falcon doors. The rear end is pretty clean and features two sets of thin LEDs, but they are more linear than the SUVs, and then there's an indent below the taillights that almost creates a little lip spoiler. Both models have very large wheels and short overhangs, and like I said earlier, so far the designs have been received well by car journalists and just the general public, so I am interested to see what your opinion on it is. As for the interior, we haven't seen too much of it, but it does seem that both models will have very similar interiors and share most of the design aspects. Aehra has shown off the cockpit design, and the main feature is a huge screen that spans the entire width of the dash. To the left and right, there is the feed from the digital mirrors, and then in between is essentially the gauge cluster and other driver information. And then it extends all the way to the passenger side to provide the passenger with some screen area. The screen is pretty slim at first glance, but when the car is parked, it can actually extend out of the dash and create a TV-sized screen inside the car. The exact size of the screen hasn't been specified, but it could be around 30 to 36 inches. And this screen is intended to help the car turn into sort of a mobile office or theater at the touch of a button. Below that screen is a rectangular steering wheel and a smaller infotainment screen with just a few buttons that appear to be capacitive. But other than that, there are no physical buttons. The interior for both models is designed to have enough room to comfortably sit 4 NBA players, and all the seats can recline. There are 4 seats, and the front and rear seats appear to be the same, so the interior would have a similar layout to something like the Porsche Panamera, and it has the same wheelbase as the long wheelbase 7 Series, so that can give you an idea of the size. With a 6-figure price tag, the materials should be quite nice, but there is a focus on sustainability, so it might not be materials you're used to seeing. In the pictures, it looks like there might be a lot of Alcantara, but it's pretty hard to tell at this point. As far as performance data is concerned, for the time being, it seems that the SUV and the sedan will be very similar, if not essentially identical. Not as said that while EVs can provide large amounts of power, figures in excess of 1000 horsepower are unnecessary and do little to add to the day-to-day driving experience. Instead, both vehicles from Aehra will be built with agility and handling, as well as comfort as the foremost priorities. The vehicles will be built from an eco-friendly composite material using a monocoque construction, which is where the entire body of the car is one piece, except for the moving parts, of course, like the doors and rear hatch. Both vehicles will have all-wheel drive and have what Aehra calls an intelligent air suspension. I would assume this just means some sort of self-leveling and adjustable air suspension. They will use 2 to 3 motors, which will produce somewhere between 750 and 815 horsepower. Hazim Nada also said that even though the barrier of entry to high-power EVs has come down significantly, he doesn't think that cars producing over 1000 horsepower makes sense for most cases. Also, by using less power, Aehra can get more range out of its 120 kilowatt-hour battery packs, and right now it's claiming up to 497 miles of range on a single charge. While this is a lofty target, it's not entirely unreasonable given that the materials that will be used should save about 20% of the body weight, and both models should weigh less than 4,400 pounds. That would be nearly 1,000 pounds less than the Tesla Model Y. Aehra will begin taking pre-orders in 2025, and production is projected to begin in 2026. Pricing for both models will start at $175,000 and top out around $200,000. This puts Aehra in competition with the Porsche Taycan and upcoming K1 SUV, as well as the Mercedes EQG. Beyond electric competition, buyers may also cross-shop Aehra with other ultra-luxury SUVs like the Urus and DBX. So that's everything you need to know about Aehra, but will the company be successful? Analyzing this company is much different from other EV startups as it offers a very expensive niche product. but one major key here is funding. Because there won't be a high sales volume, Aehra won't be able to rely on a steady influx of cash from pre-orders to get production going. The company has estimated that it will need over $700 million to begin production by 2026, as it still doesn't have a factory and is currently looking at building its own or buying an existing factory and heavily renovating it. Hazim Nada has projected annual sales of the SUV and the sedan to be 15,000 to 25,000 each, and unfortunately this just isn't reasonable. Competition like Bentley, Aston Martin, and Lamborghini sell between 3,000 and 6,000 units of their respective SUV models per year with well-established brand names, and while Porsche sells about 40,000 Taycans per year, that's with a huge dealer network and an iconic brand name with broader market appeal. But most importantly, the Taycan starts at $90,000, and very few of those 40,000 models are sold at a price that even approaches $175,000. For Aehra to be successful, it must be able to sustain on a sales volume that is a tenth of what it is projecting for at least a few years, while the brand can get established among other ultra-luxury cars, and even then I doubt Aehra will be able to sell even 10,000 models per year. So that's everything you need to know about Italy's first all-electric ultra-luxury startup, Aehra. Let me know what you think about Aehra in the comments below. This is part of a series on the channel called Startup Showcase, where I take a look at new startup car companies and their models. So if you like videos like this, be sure to check out the Startup Showcase playlist on the channel and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.